Hi, I'm Rebecca. Welcome to my sewing room. This is So Be It. This week is going to be somewhat of a repeat pattern because I have gotten out my new sewing machine. I had decided that it is time to open up or get out the newer sewing machine because it has so many newfangled things on it that I can do. Let me go ahead and show you real quick. So I have the Husqvarna Viking Designer 1 machine. I have done just a little bit of sewing on the machine and learning how to use it. I've used just about every utility stitch, which is these. I've done some overlocking or overcasting stitches. I've done some lettering stitches. So I'm slowly working through my user's guide and learning how to use it. This also has an embroidery machine that this pops off and then the embroidery machine pops on there. And I can embroider a whole bunch of different stuff, but I have not started learning that yet. So for this week, we're doing a pattern that I haven't done the specific pattern that I'm making this week. I am using Simplicity 9311, and I have made this apron pattern, which is apron A. This week, I'm going to be making apron B just to really get used to learning the machine. It like raises my presser foot on its own. It has different needle positions. It'll cut the thread itself. It'll fix the thread, so it'll like knot the thread itself at the beginning and the end. So I'm slowly learning how to get used to all of that, and so that's what this week's video is more about. I am making the apron, but I'm learning my machine. I think I may also do some lettering probably on the pockets or something just so I can practice that as well. And I had a lot of fun with my practice scraps. Mom, this was the original, the first M, and it didn't quite turn out right. This also was not interfaced like it said it needed to be. I was just practicing stitches. The machine, this is its own reinforced stitch, so I thought that was really cool. I had to take out my basting stitches so I could open this up. Regular straight stitch. That's just the regular zigzag stitch. I have a hem stitch and a blind hem stitch. Look at that. I have to work on this because not all of my blind hem stitches actually caught into the fabric, so it's not completely stitched. There's a hole there. So I do have to practice that, but there's so many different stitches on this machine. I'm really excited about it. Oh, and there's this is the overcast. So just the plain overcast stitch, which looks just like a regular zigzag stitch. But then this is the seam and overcast stitch. So I will probably be using that on the majority of my clothes now in order to lock my seams. In that case, I will have to have a smaller seam allowance to use this or trim my seam allowance afterwards. So I will figure out how I'm going to do that or how that works as I go on too. So that's what we're doing this week. So buckle up and get started. So the fabric I'm using to make this apron is just some quilting cotton that I have at home. I have two different red pattern fabrics. This is the main one that's going to be the majority of the apron. And then this other red will be the ties and the inside of the pocket and the waistband. I want to embellish the apron a little bit and try out something new on my machine. So I am going to put some interfacing on, what piece is this? The side front, the top of the side front pieces, which is the top of the pocket in this pattern, because I'm going to stitch some letters there just to try that feature out again. So the first thing I do need to do is to iron the interfacing right about here on the fabric so that I can stitch letters to it. So with the advice of my husband, on each of the front of my pockets, I'm going to stitch "So Be It" and "Rebecca's Sewing Room," which is both of the taglines for this channel and my sewing social media. So I have both of the pieces interfaced, and I do have a white chalk line so that I have a line to stitch straight with. Go ahead and get my machine turned on. Okay, it says presser foot B is recommended for the lettering. Right now I have presser foot A on, so let's go ahead and change it to presser foot B. I'm going to do script lettering. Let's go ahead and program "So Be It" first. Hit stop. Hey, that's it. B, lowercase e, stop, uppercase, I, lowercase t. Okay. Is that right? Okay. Normal interface. I hit OK. And then we start sewing, I think. That's what it looks like. So let's move you over here where you can see, and I'll get going. That's what my screen looks like so far. So it means it is going to sew this way. So I do have to put my fabric in there the way it will sew up and down, but end up being sideways on my fabric. Okay, so "So Be It" will be stitched this way. I'm going to line this white line up with the left edge of the presser foot, inside edge of the presser foot. And that will be the bottom of the stitching. It will say "So Be It." This machine also, once I start it, will put the presser foot down on its own. So I'll go ahead and show you how it does that. Okay. Let's go ahead and cut that fabric, or thread, sorry. See, what do I have here? Ooh. Since it's the very same color, it's hard to see, but that does say "sew" right on it. I'll trim these threads at the end. Put this back under here and start the next one. I'm not exactly sure what this is doing, so I'm going to find out. Okay. So I have so be it. Because you're only supposed to cut it at the end, but you can barely see it anyways. So I'm gonna leave it that way. I also have options for pictures on here. So I'm gonna go ahead and program one of those and give that a shot and see how that stitch looks at the end. Since I have sew on one end of it, so be it, I'm gonna go ahead and put something else on the other end. So I chose a series of flowers to end it with. And again, it's the exact same color, you can barely see it. If I turn it around to the interfacing, you can actually see what is sewn on there. So I'm gonna go ahead and put Rebecca's Sewing Room on the other side, and I may end up butting it with flowers on either side of that as well. And I'll be back for the next step. So I didn't realize how long that was gonna be, but I did get the whole thing actually on there, even though again, it's the same color, you can't see it, but let's turn it around. And we got Rebecca's Sewing Room right there. Okay, next step. With the wrong sides together, I have to sew the side front, which are these ones that I just stitched, and the pocket facing together, wrong sides together. We sew around the side and the top edges. Once those are done, I have to encase the top in my double fold bias tape. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. All right, so the next step is attaching the pocket facing to the side, front, and pocket. So this piece here is the side, front, and pocket. This is the pocket facing. So we have to attach these right sides together, matching the notches. That's the double notch right there. Okay, I'm gonna pin down the sides almost to the bottom, about an inch from the bottom of this fabric. We are not supposed to see the stitching on the outside of the apron for the pocket, which is why I left it about an inch right there. So now I'll go ahead and fold this up. And we have to pin, this is already stitched through there. You know what? I am gonna go ahead and stitch all the way across on the top. So you will see it on the outside, even though that is not how you're supposed to do it. But it is a little bit easier that way. So that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna go ahead and stitch this, get this to the other piece, and then I'll be back. I have both pieces of the side and the pocket stitched. Yes, you can see that pocket, but that's okay. It's both sides. You totally can barely see the actual stitching that I do have on there. That's all right too. Okay, so next step is to stitch the front piece along the side seams. This is cut on the fold here. So these here. So you do that. So instead of just a regular straight stitch for this seam, I am going to try one of my overcast stitches, but I do still have the 5/8 seam allowance on this. So what I'm going to have to do is overcast the seam at the 5/8 and then trim off, because unlike a serger, this machine does not trim off the excess. So I will go ahead and have to do that as an extra step after this, but I want to see how that works as well on this. So this is the basic overlock stitch for this machine. I went ahead and trimmed the seams once I got it stitched. Open it up, and that's what this front of this apron looks like. I now have to press the seams, and then this apron is edged with lace. So I do have a lace. This came out of the stash of my grandma's leftover notions. And turn it around the right way for you. So I've decided to use this. Okay, so it looks like this is, I didn't know this needed that much bias tape. I'm going to do it a little bit different from what this says. This says to encase the lace and the apron in bias tape, but the envelope, I don't think, told me about needing all of the bias tape. And so I do not have enough to do what I need to do with this, because I would need a couple packages of bias tape. So once I get the seams ironed flat, I am going to pin the lace to the outside of the apron edges, stitch it, and then top stitch, I think, so that the lace will go out. Let me get it figured out, and then I'll actually show you what I'm going to do. So now I have the lace pinned on the apron. I am going to stitch along this scalloped edge here all the way around, and then once I'm finished with that, I'm going to press the lace out and then top stitch this down and basically do a hem. So I will show you once I get it stitched and pressed to explain the next step. So I have the lace on here and it's pinned. I am going to now stitch this down so that stays folded out. Because I don't have the hem rolled right now, I will, once I stitch it, I'm going to go ahead and pink those sides so that it won't fray. The next step of the apron is to work on the waistband. So I still have to mark the circles on the waistband. There's quite a bit of dots on here. That one. 6 or 5 down. I've also stay stitched the waistband, or the top of the apron. On the inside, pin right side of waistband to wrong side of apron, matching the notches, and placing finished apron edges at the large dots. Stitch between large dots, trim seam, and then press the seam up, pressing the band out. So the next step was preparing the tie ends. So it's a 3/8 inch hem. I am not so good with doing these corners yet. I still have to figure that out. So I did a rolled hem on both sides, and then I did a rolled hem on the end, and I kind of folded them both just to get them as good as possible. This one is better than the other one. Still not perfect, but that's okay. The waistband is right now wrong side out because it will be folded on top of itself. Okay, so I have to put gathering stitches in these ends here, and then I have to match my dots, which here, yeah, small dot, large dot and small dot to the dots on these with right sides together. I now have to put these right sides together, pin them and stitch here on both sides, and then fold the waistband in half with right sides together this way. Then I will have them right sides together this way, stitch those, and then once I get there, I will be back. Okay, so it was a little bit confusing, but I've got it. I have the tie pinned, not just pinned, it's all sewn, gathered up and sewn in here. Now I am currently pinning the waistband back onto itself with right sides together. And keeping the tie out of it, I have to pin it and stitch it to the large dots without getting the tie stuck in there. This is not so easy, but we are getting it figured out. Okay, so now I have to sew this here and the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to turn them right side out and press them because the final step will be some top stitching. So I have the whole thing ready to go. Now all I have to do is top stitch just the waistband all the way around the waistband. I had actually put the tie ends on backwards, so I had to go ahead and undo those and restitch them, but now they're on the correct way, and the last thing to do is to top stitch. So I will be back with the finished product. Thank you for watching my video. This pattern was a really good pattern to use to learn the basic steps of using my new machine. It was really fun. It looks really nice, I think so. And I really like using aprons anyways because when I cook, I'm pretty messy. This apron also will sit at your natural waist. So usually I like the full coverage aprons to protect all of my clothes. But it seems that the majority of the mess ends up at my waist and lower. However, as you can tell in the dress that I'm wearing today, I do have a higher waist. So with the apron sitting at my natural waist, it covers the majority of everything that tends to be messy. I also learned quite a bit about this machine. Pretty much, I know pretty much all of the everyday stuff that I'm going to need to know for what I do. So thank you for watching my introduction into me learning this new machine and making yet another apron, because they're easy to make and they come in handy, so you can have so many. So if you liked this video, go ahead and hit that like button. If you want to make sure you see all of my videos, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to be notified every time I post a video, hit that little notification bell and YouTube will notify you every single time I post. Thank you again for watching Rebecca's Sewing Room. This was So Be It.